Venice of 1583 was a city of debauchery and loose morals. It was famous for its courtesans, who brought men joy and love. In this city, Veronica Franco had the misfortune to fall in love with the brother of her friend Beatrice. Veronica saw Marco as he was praising the priestesses of love with his cousin Maffeo. He was a poor poet, whose works were not published but were eagerly listened to at common gatherings. When Marco noticed Veronica, he realized that his sister's girlfriend had become a woman, and he started to pay her signs of attention. Veronica lived a modest life. Her mother had once been a courtesan, and she had married well, but her husband had squandered all his fortune, leaving his daughter without an inheritance. Veronica dreamed of a free and adventurous life, and she loved to read, although it was forbidden for women in Venice at the time. Veronica wrote poems about love, but her mother made it clear to her coldly enough that marriage was a bargain, not eternal happiness. When Veronica's brother burst into her room to read her love messages, they had a playful argument. At that moment, voices were heard outside the window. Marco was singing a serenade, inviting his sweetheart for a walk. Veronica sneaked out of the house and went to Marco. They talked and kissed for a long time under the cover of the night. From then on, Veronica and Marco started dating. Yet something nasty happened at Beatrice's wedding. Marco's father, noticing his son's interest in a girl from a poor family, made him realize that he would only marry a woman with a dowry. His marriage would benefit not only the family but all of Venice. Marco understood that it would be so, for his younger sister had married an old man of high standing in society. Therefore, he admitted to Veronica that they could not be together, at least as husband and wife. A woman was in pain, but her mother comforted her. She told her that she was once a courtesan and wants her daughter to master this profession. Their family needed money, and Veronica was the one to provide it. Veronica was reluctant. She had agreed to go to a monastery, but her mother showed her what it meant to become a nun. Seeing the girl crying during her tonsure, Veronica agreed to her mother's offer, and the mother started to train her. However, Veronica deliberately boycotted all her mother's attempts to turn her into a charming seductress. Finally realizing that Veronica was not drawn to the profession because of the money, she took her to the library, where no women were allowed except for courtesans. She said that even kings trusted the advice of their courtesans, for they were incredibly well-read and intelligent. This fact made Veronica change her mind about the women of easy virtue. She was more eager to learn the secrets of the profession. When her mother had told her everything she needed to know, she moved on to a practical part. Veronica had to overcome her aversion to the male body. To do this, her mother brought a naked man to her and made her touch his sausage. Veronica did not find him unpleasant at all. On the contrary, he interested her. Finally, the training was over, and her mother brought Veronica to a lavish event with many influential men. She introduced her daughter to Minister Ramberti to become his companion that evening. Veronica confessed to him that this was the first time she was doing it, but he did not get upset. On the contrary, even more enthusiastic. The evening was slightly overshadowed by the arrival of church representatives who tried to set the debauchees on the right path, but they failed. Marco and Maffeo were also present in the room where the rest of the party had gathered. They sat beside their influential uncle Domenico. At his uncle's request, Maffeo recited a poem. While he was entertaining his guests, Marco noticed Veronica. They exchanged quips, and then Ramberti led his companion away from the young man. To hurt Veronica's feelings, Marco suggested that she compose a poem stronger than the one Maffeo had read. A poetry battle ensued between the poet and the poetess, and Veronica won. When the party was over, Veronica went to bed with the minister. She didn't succeed at maintaining the image of seductress to the end, but Ramberti was satisfied anyway. Upon leaving, he left a bag of money. In the morning, Veronica's mother gave her a drink that was supposed to protect her from an unwanted pregnancy. She also explained that not all of her men would be like Ramberti. Soon, Veronica learned this the hard way. Everyone was now after her, even old, ugly, and fat men. But Ramberti was not willing to share Veronica with them. He immediately scheduled the day of their next date. Marco also developed an interest in Veronica, but she blew him off, claiming she was busy with other men. Domenico Venier had ill legs, but Veronica was not afraid of his condition. In gratitude for her openness and courage, Domenico told the girl about wealthy and influential men she could benefit from. After that, Veronica started to work on each of them, giving them all her love and affection. However, the restless Marco continued to pester her. One day he gifted Veronica with a peacock, but that trick didn't resonate in her heart. Veronica's house had also changed. There was now good furniture, expensive dresses, and exquisite food, all thanks to her rich lovers, who were generous in their gratitude for a pleasant pastime. One day Maffeo came to Veronica with a request to spend time together, but he was poor, and Veronica did not intend to sleep with him for free. Her answer offended Maffeo. A fiancé has been found for Marco. His wife's name is Giulia de Ledze, and an alliance with her family is a rare fortune for the Marco family. When Veronica had another high-profile client, a drunken Marco showed up at her door and told her he was getting married. She was hurt to hear this, but pretended to be happy for her lover. What followed was a wedding that the whole town knew about. However, Marco was not happily married, for his spouse was cold and fixated on the family union. Being jealous, Veronica wrote another poem of her own. Along with other of the girl's poems, they were compiled into a book and published. She read out one of her works in public, arousing the envy of Mafio. He even accused her of not being able to publish a page without influential clients. Mafio was drunk and began to insult Veronica, but she responded with dignity. Mafio then drew his sword and chopped Veronica's book in her hands. She could not help herself, and challenged the poet to a duel, grabbing Marco's weapon. The two came together in a mock duel that turned into a real fight. At the end of the fight, Mafio hit Veronica in the face and received a punch from Marco for that. The shamed Mafio was reveling in self-pity when a representative of the church found him. He enlisted the unfortunate poet among the zealous custodians of God's laws. After a while, it became known of the impending war with the Turks. Yet the men of Venice had no chance without the support of the King of France. He would certainly be of assistance if he were welcomed with dignity during his visit to Venice. Realizing that he will soon be going to war, Marco asks Veronica to be with him only all the time until his departure. They spend their time together at a country estate, relaxing and loving each other until the King of France arrives. Before King Henry's visit, Veronica is informed that the monarch will agree to help Venice if he is satisfied with his visit. The king has heard of the courtesans of this city and wishes to experience the beauty of their skills. The best courtesans of the city are invited to him, but he notices Veronica in the crowd and asks her to join him. King Henry's tastes prove to be peculiar, but Veronica finds her way with him. After a night in her bed, the king agrees to provide military aid to Venice. The monarch's visit to his beloved has ignited jealousy in Marco's heart. He and Veronica part in a quarrel. Marco went to war, and Veronica began to pray for his life. One day, she was invited to speak with the wives of influential men in Venice. They wanted to know the latest news of the war, which was not available to them. Yet Marco's wife was more concerned with jealousy than the course of the war. As she left, Veronica told her that Marco was safe and sound. After this meeting, Beatrice asked Veronica to make her daughter a courtesan when she was old enough. That way the girl could at least be free. Yet Veronica showed her friend the other side of the life of the ladies of love, the place where they end up. After a while, Venice was struck by the plague. The clergy blamed the debauchery that reigned in the city and the courtesans for it. They were persecuted, beaten, and publicly executed. When Marco found out about the state of affairs in Venice, the first thing he did was go to Veronica. She was alive, but her mother was dying of a terrible illness. After her death, representatives of the Inquisition came to Veronica and announced that she would be tried for witchcraft. Marco tried to intercede on her behalf, but he had no power over the accused. A trial was appointed, where Mafio was one of the chief prosecutors. He was eager to get rid of Veronica. She was offered to confess her witchcraft, then she would be pardoned. Yet Veronica did not intend to comply with the court's demands. She proclaimed loudly that she had given love to men, giving them the sensations they expected from women. She was about to be sentenced to death, but Marco stood up for her. He was ready to go to the gallows with her, for he was her accomplice. Marco urged all the men who had received Veronica's love and affection to stand up for her. So they did when the last hope of salvation was lost. It was made clear to the inquisitors that the trial of the courtesans of Venice was an internal matter in which the Inquisition should not interfere. After this trial, Veronica's house served as a refuge for those persecuted by the Inquisition. She and Marco remained lovers until their deaths. And that's where the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to watch more movie recaps videos like this.